Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We know for a fact that with the Season 3 update coming up here in a few weeks' time, we are going to see another major meta update. Raven sort of already alluded to some of the big changes that we can expect with that, and with that today, I wanted to break down some of the big changes we can probably expect with individual weapons. What are we going to see happen with the BREN? What are we going to see happen with this rifle or this sniper? As we go through what is presumably going to be the next meta update today, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, each and every day I got you covered with all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. That way you can always guarantee you we're up to date. So the first place I want to spend a little bit of time for this video is our overall meta tier list. Of course, we talk about this all the time anytime there's a new major meta update, and this is where the general meta stands. Of course, it's somewhat opinionated because this is me judging weapons based on where they are versus other weapons. It's not 100% official by any means, but there really aren't too many of these out there, and I feel like this is a nice, easy way to simplify things. And as we can see, like, the overall meta here is pretty solid. We have a ton of guns in viable and competitive, and a decent selection in top meta. However, Raven, like I said, has already revealed some things they are going to do in the Season 3 update. We know for one, a BREN Nerf is 100% coming. They talked about this on an interview with Teep before. Josh Bridges, I believe, confirmed, yeah, the BREN, we know it's insane. It is going to see a nerf at some point in the future. Now, for what it's worth, this could happen before Season 3. We might see some other small tuning updates go live before Season 3, but also they did confirm some specific things for the seasonal update as well. But like I said, yeah, BREN Nerf clearly is the best. We'll talk about this more on a TTK graph in just a moment, but I would expect for this to be the 4th or 5th nerf in total to the BREN. It'll probably knock it down a tier into that more competitive area, which is where it should be. They also talked about how in Season 3, they want to adjust the long range meta, especially with the health update and 300 HP now in core battle royale. And honestly, I would not be surprised if it eventually comes to rebirth as well. The long range meta is a little bit not ideal, I guess you could say. Basically, when it comes down to it, Vanguard weapons don't have a great shot at competing in the long range meta, and I think that is very accurately described by our tier list here. A lot of these Vanguard rifles are in competitive. The Automaton, which is so good, but on 300 health, it struggles a little bit. The Itra Burst, the Bar, the NZ, the Volk, the STG, the Cooper, all pretty solid weapons, just not for range, which is where they're supposed to be good at, right, with this 300 health. Whereas in top meta, we got the AK, the C58, the Vargo, the AMAX, the XM4. These are all great ranged weapons that just don't allow these other guns to compete. So if I had to guess, and this is an educated guess, obviously, based off of what they have said previously on streams, is that we're either going to see some significant buffs to these Vanguard weapons to make their damage and their TTK over range a little bit more competitive, or we're going to see nerfs to some of these top Cold War and maybe a few Modern Warfare weapons that are dominating that long range meta right now. On top of that, they also briefly mentioned how the snipers for Vanguard, the Type 99, the CAR, the 3-line, they're all decent, but there's clearly a dominance with the Swiss and the CAR. The sniping meta in general is not super diverse either right now, and I would expect some changes there too, based off of, again, what they've said previously. Now, to sort of visualize why these changes are needed, we can easily look at the TTKs. I have this graph and then one more graph in general about the long range meta. This one just shows, yeah, the BREN definitely needs a nerf. It has been nerfed and it's nowhere near as overpowered as it was, 2 months ago, but it is still the most dominant long range weapon. We can see the TTKs here on 300 health, combination shots, so this is as accurate as it gets. Other weapons that are great for range, the DP, the XM4, the AK, the BREN just bests all of them. Yeah, it slightly falls off past 54 meters where the AK is a little bit better, but the BREN's also way easier to use. And beyond that, it is clearly the best. Like, the AK is close, but from 38 to 54 meters, the BREN is by far the best option, and that's not a small gap in game. That's a decent chunk of gunfights right there, where nothing is going to be able to compete with this thing just because it's so dominant and it's so powerful. So yes, clearly the BREN nerf is well overdue, and we know that that's going to happen. Also, real quick before we look at the overall long range meta here, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my sponsors, Scuff. I have been using Scuff controllers for a long time now, ever since like the MW3 days, and now we're to the point where there are controllers for every console generation. If you're playing on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, or obviously PC, where all those are usable, they've got controllers for you and for your gameplay. If you ever want to get one for yourself, Code WHosImmortal has you covered with a nice little discount. Now, as far as the general long range meta goes, again, we're looking at 300 health here, combination shots once more. We got a bunch of weapons here. The the Cold War AK, the XM4, the top two, I would say, or some of the top, you know, ranged weapons. The Vargo is also in there. So is the AMAX as well, for what it's worth. But I wanted to look at those two in specific versus some of the main Vanguard guns to really be able to visualize and explain that there is a clear meta for long range that is not balanced whatsoever. So we got the Automaton with its ideal range setup. Same deal with the KGM40, the Bar, and the Cooper, for instance. And we can see here that the XM4, the purple line or the hot pink line, and then the AK, the orange line here, they are the best. It's only close for 32 to 43 meters. So for 10 whole meters, 11 whole meters there, it's kind of close, at least for the XM4, not so much for the AK, where it is clearly the king throughout. And you can see we're looking at 833 millisecond TTK around 38 meters here versus 43 meters here. We're looking at 1.1 seconds, almost 1.2 seconds on like the Bar, for instance. The drop off on these Vanguard guns is insane. The Cooper at 22 meters drops off to over a 1 second long TTK, which is just never going to be able to compete versus something like an AK, an XM4, an AMAX, a Vargo, a C58, even an EM2 in some cases where the recoil is not great. The KGM40, absolute laser beam, but look at how bad it drops off at 32 meters. Like, that's really not that far for what's supposed to be a long range weapon. You know, you see all these long range guns in the game, these rifles, these LMGs that are supposed to be dominant here, but if they're not a Cold War or a Modern Warfare gun in some cases, they don't stand a chance. The Vanguard guns, the thing is, they're so low recoil. All the Vanguard guns are so easy to use, but they don't have great damage values, at least over range. Up close, obviously, the Vanguard guns dominate the SMG meta, but over range, which is the primary meta that Raven's talked about looking at here, there is a clear imbalance where the Automaton, great weapon, 42 meters over a second long TTK. Like, you're up there with the Kilo. You're up there with the M13 at that point, which are mid-tier weapons, and you just don't really ever have a reason to use a Vanguard gun for long range with this health update, which, like I said, if this comes to Rebirth, this also makes all these guns a lot less effective over there. While you might be fighting more between 30 and 50 meters on Rebirth, you still have the same issue present. So the long range meta is in need of quite a bit of tuning. On top of that, we're gonna see other updates. I would not be surprised at all if there's additional tunes to the SMG meta where it's clearly dominated by Vanguard guns. Maybe we finally see some upgrades to some of these weapons that are really suffering with the 300 health, things like the Scar, the Odin, the Uzi, the Val, those small mag weapons. They really aren't super useful when you have this many more shots to kill now with that extra 50 health. So a lot of things need to be reworked because this health update, we know obviously of a few of them as we've talked about throughout the video. That said, that is everything we know about this next meta update as of this point in time. As we get any new information on it, I'll be covering it right here. So stick it here for that and everything else going on in COD. Make sure you are subscribed with those noties turned on. And also, if you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.